Welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Susan McGuire. I'm Manager of Professional Development at ACCE, and I'm very happy to welcome you to today's webinar, which is the first in our series featuring 2016 Chamber of the Year Award winners. Today we're going to hear from the leadership of the Southwest Indiana Chamber of Commerce, the winner of the Chamber of the Year Award for 2016 in Category 3. We have Christy Gillenwater, CCE, President and CEO, Joshua Armstrong, Downtown Alliance Director, and Justin Groenert, Director of Government Relations and Public Policy. So Christy, Joshua, and Justin are going to explain how their chamber's collaborative efforts have led to numerous recent successes in downtown development, including the completion of a downtown master plan, the development of an economic improvement district, and over $450 million in development projects under construction or slated in the next 5 years. So before I turn the program over to our panelists, I have just a few housekeeping notes. First, attendees are in listen-only mode during the webinar to avoid background noise. Second, after our panelists' presentation, we will have time for some questions, and you can ask those questions by using the question function of the webinar. So if you take a look at the webinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen, the question box is on the lower right-hand corner. Just type in your question, and I will read the question to our panel. If we run out of time and don't get to your question, or you just have a question you'd rather prefer to discuss with them individually offline, that's totally okay. Please feel free to contact our panelists directly. They'll have their contact information on the last slide. In addition, if you type in a question and we don't get to it because of time, we will contact you because I have those questions recorded. And of course, please feel free to get in touch with me here at ACCE and if you have any questions for any of us here. And then finally, as I said before, the webinar is being recorded. It should be up on the ACC website on Monday. And I will also post the presentation slides along with the recording. So with that, I am going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. Christy Gillenwater. Christy started as Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce's first intern. She worked for 2 more Indiana chambers and SBC, now AT&T, and earned her master's degree from Ball State University before returning to the Chamber of the Year award-winning Greater Bloomington Chamber as its president and CEO in 2005. Since January of 2013, she's been president and CEO of the Southwest Indiana Chamber of Commerce, where she and her team brought home the Chamber of the Year Award last summer in Category 3. Justin Groenert is the Director of Government Relations and Public Policy for the Southwest Indiana Chamber. His role focuses on building relationships with elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels, and overseeing all aspects of public policy for the Chamber. He spent his career before the Chamber in politics as a successful campaign manager and congressional staffer. And then Joshua Armstrong has served as the Downtown Alliance Director since its inception in May 2014. A graduate of UCLA, Joshua ran numerous high-volume restaurants in Los Angeles before moving to Evansville, where he owned 2 restaurants prior to joining the team at the Chamber. His work is guided by a belief that people operate at their best in urban areas where they have a high degree of daily interaction with their fellows, and that his role is to serve the broader region through efforts downtown. So thank you so much, Christy, Justin, and Joshua, and I will now turn over the presentation to you.
All right, thanks, Susan. Thank you for everyone joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule, making a difference in your own community to hear about our progress here in Evansville in Southwest Indiana. So I'm Christy Gillenwater, and Josh Armstrong and our team will kick us off today, and then you'll hear from me and from Justin, but Josh will be our primary presenter today. So looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and I guess good morning if you're in Alaska or Hawaii, perhaps. We appreciate you making time to speak with us today, and I'm going to start with just a brief little history lesson of Evansville, Indiana. Christy, if you want to jump ahead. So we are on the banks of the Ohio River, and in 2012 we celebrated our bicentennial. The center of our city is pretty old, and then we've had a lot of sprawl over the time. We presently have about 300,000 individuals in our MSA. The city is about 120,000. The county is about 150,000, and excuse me. There we go. So I wanted to share just a bit of what makes our downtown a little bit challenging, and it shows in this map from 1858. And when you see that area that's at a 45-degree angle, that's our downtown. We're presently at this skewed grid to the rest of the community, and it's presented some opportunities and challenges throughout our whole time. So 1858, we were already growing quite a bit. And in 1940, we were at 100% density in our downtown. Our downtown is bordered by the Ohio River on the south, and at that point, every parcel was completely occupied. There were about 6,000 residents living in our downtown at that point, and then it really geared up during World War II. We were a major manufacturer of ships, airplanes, and ordnance throughout the war, and so the population just really expanded, and downtown became even more dense. So at 150 years, in 1962, things had started to slow down a little bit in our downtown. One of the things that I like about this slide is it shows that at that point we were dependent upon one-way streets. And to me, a one-way street is one way to get out of downtown. It's designed to move vehicles quickly versus encouraging people to explore and become pedestrians and walk. So that's the reason I always include this slide in a presentation. It shows that we've had a long time of doing some things kind of backwards here, including this experiment with one-way streets, which we no longer have. So here we are in 1972, just 30 years after 100% density, and you can see that vast areas of our downtown have been literally scraped to the ground. During the 1960s, we did have some areas of blight. Something had to be done, but the plan to scrape these areas and rebuild in a more modern style, well, the only part we got done was the removal of vast blocks of historic structures. And it got even worse from there. So this map is from 2001, and in the city, we call this the blood map because of all the red on it. And all that red is surface parking. And surface parking, I understand that people need to park somewhere, but it's a real killer for your community. No wealth is created in a parking lot. No taxes are really paid off of parking. Yeah, some communities there's parking taxes, but nothing really benefits the community except a place to put a vehicle for a few hours. And we had plenty of that in 2001. So I'm going to turn this over to Christy, who's going to talk about the launch of the Downtown Alliance and a bit about how that all came together. So.
Great, thanks, Josh. And when I joined our chamber 4 years ago, when I was actually in the interview process, I asked them who owned the downtown function. And as I know probably many of you on the call know, in chambers we often have what I like to say is a co-opetition. That is collaborative organizations who also happen to be competition at times. And candidly, it was our Lido, the organization functioning as our Lido, who quote unquote owned the downtown economic development space. And I said to them, well, candidly, I don't think that they clearly prioritize downtown. And if you hire me, I think this is something the chamber should really look at owning, because I think we can really have an impact on our downtown. And I believe right now no one is really tending to it. So fast forward a year later, so literally 3 years ago this month, we started well, first of all, I have to say I went to the mayor and some other key community leaders, including that organization, and said, hey, I'm not sensing that you're interested in owning downtown anymore. Is it okay if we take that on? And they relinquished it, and other organizations said, yes, I think it makes sense for the chamber to own this leadership position. So we engaged 60 community members. We made it very public that we were going into this process, and initially it was about 40 people, and then once word got out, another 20 people approached us. We had a facilitated discussion over a 3-month period and came up with a strategic plan with 5 strategic goal areas, very specific metrics and goals and objectives that we wanted to accomplish as we launched our new Downtown Alliance as a sub-brand of the Southwest Indiana Chamber. And I might, as an anecdote, add we have 8 alliances that are all sub-branded very similarly to the logo you see here with the Chamber. So after that plan was finished, I went out and raised some money, just pretty bare bones, to go ahead and hire Josh and have a little bit left over for some events, etc. And Josh joined our team in May of almost 3 years ago, and it has been nothing but tremendous success ever since. And you see there our statement, our purpose statement, charged to work towards the downtown Evansville, which is a unique place to live, work, dine, invest, and play. And you'll see there the 5 strategic goal areas, essentially. So again, from there, and once we hired Josh, things really started to move. And what was so, I think, impactful about our process were, the process of going around and getting other key organizations to agree that we were the natural place for this to be housed, A, and then B, for those 60, stakeholders, community leaders who were involved in the planning of a plan that was really collectively bought into. And I might say the premise for this plan, a lot of what we looked at were existing studies, a young professional plan, a millennial plan. We had all of these other plans that had been done recently or focus groups conducted that made it clear that quality of place was really an area of opportunity for Evansville, and that specifically downtown was the anchor point for our turnaround and need for a turnaround and really creating an outstanding quality of place, that it was the single most important thing that needed to be tended to in our region. And once we had all of that collective wisdom and collective perspective on, yes, this is the primary issue, and second, this is what we need to be doing, and this is organization to do it, we really saw a lot of tremendous growth. So while we hired Josh on a few years ago, there were a few key projects that were happening at the same time, and I'll let Justin talk about kind of this key project here that you see up, our Doubletree by Hilton, which is about ready to open here later, actually next month, but it was really a project that was heavily in discussion right before and as our Downtown Alliance launched, and plays a role in all of this. Justin?
Sure. Hi, Justin Groenert. This was really sort of one of the big anchor projects that really sort of spurred what we've been able to do in downtown. A previous administration had worked to get a new arena downtown, which was the first sort of big anchor. But without a hotel and without some of the quality of place items around downtown, there was no real silver bullet. This was the 3rd attempt by a mayor of Evansville to try to replace the convention hotel in downtown. And at the time, this really sort of came together when Lloyd Winnecke's administration took office and really went out of his way to build relationships with the business community. That collaboration, I think, ultimately was key. At the time, we had a hostile city council that wasn't interested in playing politely with the mayor, which really sort of helped catalyze the business community with the mayor, his administration, and his supporters to get this across the finish line. We went out of our way to build signs, to show up to meetings, to write letters to the editor, We really built our advocates list through our public policy committees and interested parties throughout our 1,800 members to get people involved in this project. At the end of the day, as Christy said, we've got a beautiful hotel that's gone up and will be open here shortly. That is really now a catalyst to what else has gone on. The next project that sort of spurred out of this arena and hotel expansion was the IU School of Medicine, a multi-institutional academic health, science, education, and research facility. That's a whole lot of words to describe a med school, but essentially this was really very impactful on a lot of levels. The med school is unique in that there are 4 higher education institutions and 4 hospital conglomerates working together to make this project happen, which is virtually unheard of by anybody that we talk to, our advisors on the project. The role we played as a chamber was really sort of getting all of those groups in the same room to make sure that the city, the institutions of higher learning, and the hospital groups all came together to message the same way and to coordinate efforts at the state level to secure funding for the project. At the end of the day, it took meetings. It took 4 different trips to Indianapolis with various groups to make sure that in the last budget cycle, which was 2 years ago, we were able to get the $19 million line item from the state to get this thing to happen. Ultimately, one of the 4 institutions was unable to get funding through the state for other issues that had nothing to do with this project, but we were able to get 2 of the 3, which was more than enough to get the project started. As we sit right now, as the hotel finishes, there are I-beams coming out of the ground, and we further will see more development, more jobs, and more people in our downtown area. Spurring off of those 2 victories, under now Vice President Mike Pence, but Governor Pence at the time, he and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation came up with this unique idea called the Regional Cities Initiative. This was a way for communities outside of Indianapolis to force collaboration amongst counties and regions to put quality of place initiatives at the forefront. What the Indiana Economic Development Corporation was finding was that Indianapolis was having no problem sort of attracting and retaining talent, and the rest of the state was having real trouble. So what this did was leverage $126 million into 3 $42 million grants for 3 regions, all of which were focused on plans to drive quality of place. Ultimately, with coordinating with not only the 3 other regions, but other regions in the state, but also the 4-county region that we've already collaborated with. Greg Watson and his team at the Economic Development Corporation of Southwest Indiana, in partnership with the Chamber and other economic development corporations, cities, counties, elected officials, we were able to put together a very competitive program and policy ideas or project ideas to make this thing happen in Evansville. Essentially, the anchor projects are several in downtown Evansville. One of them was helping our charter school, our national leading charter school, with some additional space to get more students in, focused on math and science. We also have a joint venture between Vectren and Hyatt, which is a manufacturer of appliances, as a research and development live-in lab, where people will have housing that they will use, but Vectren and Hyatt will be able to use those facilities to work on energy savings and R&D on new appliances. So there are several different of those. You can do a whole lot of those. Josh, you want to jump in on some of those too?
Yes, it also funds what I think is really the most important part of the medical school. The medical school is great, but a research facility next to your medical school is going to create important long-term economic outcomes for our community and attract the kinds of highly educated, highly skilled, highly compensated individuals into our community and really create just be very sticky. It'll be tough for those folks to leave. They're working on projects that take 10 or 12 or 15 years. So that's really exciting. Another one of the projects that came out of this for downtown, so 5 of the biggest projects all are in downtown in our $42 million. The other one is a project called the Market at Vine, which is a sort of a Paseo live workshop development that will have about 200 units above a food hall, outdoor space, plazas, things like that.
So all in all, I think the biggest thing for us was recognizing opportunity when we had it in front of us, leveraging what had already been done to maximize the impact, and really building those relationships and collaborating with our elected officials, with our business leaders, with our educational system, getting everybody on board and rowing the same way, and again, capitalizing on the opportunities as they come.
So I'm going to talk about some outcomes that from all of our work here. One of the projects that's really near and dear to me is a gateway enhancement. We have been required by the EPA and the Justice Department to make some major changes in the way our sewage is handled and treated, and it's creating an opportunity at this area called the B Wetlands West Gateway. I served with our engineers from our sewer department, and I'm not an engineer, and a number of other people, and we took what was originally simple white lines and boxes, or even worse, fake architecture, boxes designed to look like 18th century warehouses and such. And we were able to come up with a design standard that will showcase this huge $183 million investment over the next 20 years in downtown. Communities used to take pride in their water treatment. They were beautiful buildings like their courthouses, and if we're going to spend $183 million, it's important to me that it looks good and has some other outcomes. So as this work is happening, streets are being pulled up, complete streets are going down. A park is being torn up. What's going down is going to have new restrooms, year-round restrooms, which are important here because of our climate. For every tree that is being pulled out in the course of this work, 2 appropriate trees are being planted. So we're using this B wetlands area to repopulate some areas up against a freeway at the north end of our downtown with regionally appropriate species of trees. So this, I think, was just a great outcome of being at the table, always being there, willing to listen and help and do what we can, and making those important connections throughout our government. So our sewer department, City Hall, Department of Metropolitan Development, etc. We were all involved in this project. Another outcome was the April 2016 release of our first master plan update in 15 years. And the Downtown Alliance, advocated for funding for the plan, and I served as the project manager for this process. It took 7 months, and we received over 1,500 citizen inputs from steering committees to online surveys, to roundtables, to open houses. And we created, with an organization in Denver called Puma, a very people-forward master plan. And this master plan is available on our website if you want to download it, take a look at it. There's also an executive summary available there if you don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of the whole plan. All right, so one of our big success stories, in addition to the hotel and the medical school, and there's actually now 2 hotels that are kind of underway, 179 units of market rate housing are under construction or have recently been completed in the 110 blocks that make up our downtown. We have over 300 market rate units in the pipeline for development and 60+ workforce housing units that we hope to see announcements this year for completion next year. During this time, as these units have come on, we continue to fill them up rapidly. Our current residential occupancy is 99.4%, which is a shortage, the housing folks would tell us. All right, Brew Burger Bar is one of 7 new or under construction eateries, along with 3 coffee places and 2 bars. Brew is inside this historic 1937 Art Deco Greyhound terminal, and Brew is an Indianapolis-based restaurant group. We are their 5th location, and we have been their most successful opening. Their parent company has been down here looking at additional sites in downtown for other brands. River City Mercantile pictured here. We have 4 new retailers opened on our main street in 2016. And the Downtown Alliance provides ongoing marketing opportunities with all of our street level merchants. Things like Small Business Saturday. We're doing a Saturday event right before Valentine's Day for shopping, and Moonlight Madness sales, things like that. I also go out every month, usually the last week of the month, and talk to all the ground floor merchants and offices and just let them know what's coming up. I hand out a calendar of upcoming events so they can make plans for staffing, etc. So tonight, Miranda Lambert kicks off her 2017 U.S. tour. Did I say that right? I'm not a fan.
So.
Lambert. Lambert. Okay, there we go. No, I'm
We're
sorry.
laughing at us.
In any event, she's kicking off her U.S. tour tonight at our Ford Center in downtown Evansville. So this week I went around, made sure that all the restaurateurs, again, new, made sure that they had all their staff there at 4:30 because they'll start getting busy then. Make sure that they were ready to give a great experience to these visitors coming in and made as much money as they possibly can. We really want successful ground floor retail and restaurant operations here. All right, I mentioned another hotel. So the Hyatt Place, Evansville, begins construction in 2017. We provided a lot of assistance with this project with rezoning. There was a street vacation that needed to happen. About a half a block of street needed to be gifted to the developer on this. And some tax phase-in work that we're assisting them with on this 135-room property. So this will give us almost 900 rooms total in our downtown. In our county, our hotel occupancy rate is about 65%. And my current projects for the Alliance are, we're working on a downtown economic improvement district. In other states, these are called special benefit districts, business improvement districts, etc. It is a special assessment agreed upon by property owners to pay for specific services beyond what the city presently or can provide. I'm advocating for changes on Riverside Drive to slow traffic, and that makes me an unpopular man with some people, but when you come into our downtown, it's very challenging to go the speed limit because of how quickly some people are driving. So we're just trying to get that slower and make it feel more comfortable for pedestrians and give passers-by or drivers a chance to see some of our beautiful contemporary architecture and our historic architecture and our beautiful river. I'm working on updating the downtown design standards. We're fortunate enough to have had a document that guides the quality of our new projects, our signage, our lighting, but we have some areas that need to be updated, so I'm attempting to get some funding together to assist in that process. Our master plan called for the acquisition and development of a plaza or park in the middle of our downtown, and I'm working on acquiring resources to get that acquisition nailed down. It's a little tricky because this parcel presently looks like a park, but it is privately owned, and it is not maintained to appropriate standards. And then we have an upcoming community branding project that will soon be released. I'm working to leverage a new image for downtown off the more regional branding for Evansville, so that there's a sense of continuity back and forth between the broader region and the center of our MSA. And here are some outcomes. It's actually a lot more money than we talked about earlier. So $286.2 million recent and current construction investment, pipeline construction investment $395 million. All those housing units we talked about. This is something I'm really proud of. We've had business starts or relocations into downtown, 50 of those in 3 years. We're almost full on our ground floor levels. There's just a few very troubled spaces that we're working to get filled. We have 13 announced business starts or relocations happening this year, and then about 15 of our ground floor businesses have expanded in one way or the other, whether that's hours or increased staff, new product lines, etc. So, questions. There we go. There's our contact information and a picture of downtown Evansville from from Kentucky, actually. The curve of our river allows for some kind of dramatic angles, so, but you can see that it's kind of set at an angle just from the scale of the high rises.
And in closing, I might just say, it's interesting to think, I know 4 years ago when you would walk in our downtown in the middle of winter, or any time, it was pretty desolate. And just about 2 weeks ago, it was pretty cold one day, about 20 degrees, and I was outside and I came back and I was so excited and telling everyone, oh my gosh, I must have seen, just so many people were out on the streets. And again, 3-4 years ago, that would not have happened during the day on a cold day in the winter. It has been an absolute transformation. And I give real credit to Josh and his vision and articulation of the vision in the community. Our mayor has been on board, as Justin said. I mean, what's been great about this entire focus on the downtown is everyone is on board with it. Our elected officials, our key business leaders, even those CEOs who are not located in the downtown understand it. They understand, when it comes to the attraction and retention of talent for them, that if our downtown is not thriving, it hurts them. And so for our brand, I've had a few board members say, are we concerned about so much focus on downtown? And some of these folks are some of our strongest downtown supporters. They just want to make sure everyone, all of our 1,800 members understand our focus. And I keep saying yes. I mean, as I'm out I meet with about 100 key investors a year. Everyone marvels about the energy downtown, about the focus downtown, specifically about the Chamber's role through the Downtown Alliance and on waking up daily with that focused mind on the downtown. And Josh just brings such a great depth and breadth of perspective, not only as a former business owner, but his acumen around urban planning has just been so natural for this role. And he's really become the go-to person on any kind of investment on the downtown. And the other word I really want to portray that we definitely shared in the interview process for Chamber of the Year is collaboration. I mean, not only have we collaborated significantly with elected officials, but appointed officials, private companies, the universities, as we talked about. And by the way, that university project, there were 3 different locations being talked about in our community, and Indiana University ultimately made the decision, and they're in Bloomington, an hour and a half up I-69 from us, and there was a concerted effort by some to really make sure that happened in the downtown, because we knew that that project right there would move us forward about 10 years faster, if not more, if it were located in the downtown versus somewhere else. So there were a lot of efforts about angling that project for the downtown. So it's hard to capture the full story in a quick, 35 minutes, but it has been definitely a full court press, full of just a lot of energy, a great deal of collaboration, and everyone really moving forward in the same direction together. So with that, Susan, we can go ahead and take some questions now.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that presentation. What an amazing result, amazing ongoing work. Really appreciate you sharing that. Everyone, if you have questions for Christy, Justin, or Josh, please go ahead and type them into the question box on your webinar panel, and it will pop up, and I will read them to our panelists. So we do have a couple to begin with, and the first two are, how does the Alliance work in conjunction with the Chamber, and are there membership dues for the Alliance separate from the Chamber?
Okay, that's a good question. I'll start with that one. And we were very concerted about this. Like I said, the Downtown Alliance is one of 8 alliances that we have. When I arrived here, only one of our alliances, and we only had maybe 2 or 3 at that point, charged for membership. And we saw this, and fortunately Josh agreed, that making it a membership organization was not something we were interested in. So Josh provides advice, counsel, support to businesses in the downtown, whether they are members or not. Now, he works in concert with our accounting exec and gives her leads, gives her ideas, gives her suggestions, and then her role is to go out and try to secure them as chamber members, understanding that they are benefiting from the work of the Downtown Alliance. So it is, so again, not a separate membership organization. Like I said, one of 8 alliances. And so within our strategic plan, we have one of our 5, actually now 6 strategic goal areas is in the space of community development, kind of quality of place / livability. And we have a vice chair over that division. And the primary focus there, while some of it is on community branding, like Josh referenced, our cornerstone goal area is the downtown. So Josh works very closely with that vice chair, and they have a committee that they work with. Now, when we launch this economic improvement district, which will bring in dollars to really help sustain our Downtown Alliance and grow Josh's team, that relationship will be a contract situation, obviously, with the Economic Improvement District Board, and so that will allow us to have some more resources. But right now, like I said, we've been more bare bones. We've raised money through our CVB, through our city, through our county, and then through some large businesses who either have vested interest directly in the downtown, or again from that talent attraction standpoint, care about the downtown, and they have just funded, they have an option to just fund the Downtown Alliance and be listed on our website, that kind of section of our website, or possibly be specifically tied to a downtown related event.
I don't really have much more to add. It's the EID will take the funding kind of completely separate, almost like a firewall between the chamber, but I'll still definitely be in the chamber, and I think that's a real important place for the EID to stay. The access to our other members, the ability to just instantly get in touch with Justin, get in touch with Christy, and continue to advocate for the kind of changes that our master plan calls for over time. It's more than just something that an EID can do on its own.
Okay. I have another question, and this actually relates to the funding. Just a question about the type of funding you secured, whether you have foundation funding or county or state, or you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. Go ahead.
We're going back and forth.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the biggest funder of the Downtown Alliance work is our Convention and Visitors Bureau. Then comes the city. These are contract in return for business recruitment services, in return for making sure that our Main Street is ready to go when the DoubleTree by Hilton opens next month, that we have a lot of businesses, that there's diversity in them, et cetera. So those are the 2 biggies that have always been with us throughout the process. in terms of the foundation, there is a separate Southwest Indiana Chamber Foundation where a lot of the community development dollars and activities happen in the funds that are in the foundation. Then,
Okay.
Christy, yeah. We're good.
Okay. All right. Right now, that's all the questions we have. If anyone else has any other questions about the projects or for our panel, please go ahead and type your questions in. In the meantime, remember that we are recording this webinar, so you can check the ACCE webinar page, which you can get to by clicking on Professional Development and then Webinars. And by Monday, I will have a recording of the webinar and the presentation. And as well, feel free to contact Christy, Josh, or Justin if you have questions that come up later. Their contact information is in the presentation as well. Christy, do you want to give a 60 seconds about Chamber of the Year, just to finish off the webinar this afternoon in case anyone wasn't able to join last week?
Sure. Sure. Michelle from the ACC team and I hosted a webinar last week about the Chamber of the Year process. And so if any of you are interested, if you're engaged in work that you're proud of and you think this could be a great year for you, you can access that webinar as well on the ACCE website. But most importantly is right now filling out, and this is kind of a shameless plug regardless of whether you want to apply or not, but is to complete the dynamic chamber benchmarking survey information on the ACCE website. It's so useful. I really look at that information to look at how we're tracking and comparable to other chambers, and anyone on the team can fill out the majority of that information that's necessary, and then the ACCE team will send out a notification on whether you meet the basic requirements necessary to apply for Chamber of the Year, and that's based on several different things, you know, your membership retention rate to your net income. There are 5 key factors there. I believe it's 5, maybe 6. And so once that happens, then there is an April deadline for applications. You have about, I think it's 5 or 6 weeks from notification to when the application is actually due. And then upon the application, you find out whether or not you're a finalist. But I always tell folks to start thinking right now about what you would feature. The 2 programs, like what we talked about today, you have to write about 2 specific programs that you're engaged in. And the idea is really to be over the past 2 years or so, but to have really made measured improvements in the last 12 months and to be able to quantify that. But right now at this time last year, we already had a plan on the 2 things we were going to write about. Josh and Justin took their respective roles and started working on outlines. I mean, really, I felt pretty strongly we would pre-qualify, so we started working on the application itself before we received notification, just because those 5 to 6 weeks fly by. In my opinion, when you want to have the best application possible, it's just a little bit of a tight time frame, so you really have to move on those items ahead of time. But it does so much for your organization and for your community. Since we've won, we've really messaged this with real authenticity that this is a community award. I mean, we never would have been recognized could we not passionately tell the story about the absolute transformation happening in our city and in our region, and the chamber is at the center point of all of that. And but had it not been for that transformation in our community, had it not been for our business leaders and top business leaders engaging in our organization, the 1,800 members who have joined our chamber, we would not have even been a contender. And so it has done so much to continue to build upon our brand and the great work that we're doing, and for others to feel validated in the work that we're doing, such as with our Downtown Alliance, such as, our extremely impactful public policy initiatives as well. And so it's just a wonderful story. Whether or not you're a finalist or you're awarded, it really has an impact on your region. And I'll say even going through the process of applying really opens your eyes up a lot to, how it is you're functioning as an organization. In some cases can provide you with opportunities for improvement. So we hope you strongly consider applying for Chamber of the Year. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about that process, or to Michelle as well. So thank you, Susan, for that ability to plug Chamber of the Year.
No, thanks so much for providing that information. And again, contact Michelle Vegliante. That's Vegliante, Vegliante at acce.org, acce.org, right? And or click on Professional Development, and then Awards, and then Chamber of the Year. So thank you all for participating. Thank you, panelists, for that great presentation. We really appreciate you sharing your programs with us and that information. Remember that you will all get 1 CCE credit for this webinar, so that's just a reminder. And then our next ACC University webinar will be presented on Thursday, February 9th at 2 p.m. Bill Markline, Community Relations Director at the Sheboygan County, Wisconsin Chamber, will be presenting on how to achieve new levels of sales success by understanding how to manage your own emotions and those of your customers during all phases of the sales cycle. So he's going to be talking about emotional intelligence, so don't miss that. So thanks again, everyone, for your participation and interest. Thanks, Christy, Joshua, and Justin. We'll sign off now, but everyone have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.